Today on White Collar Garage, we got this 2002 Chevy Tahoe, and it's got an ABS light on. And the code's coming up to being the right front wheel speed sensor and hub assembly. So we're going to replace that right front wheel speed sensor and hub assembly. It'll come in together. So let's get started on changing it. Okay, so we're going to take this tire, and this is another way you can check your wheel bearings, is you grab the bottom of it and your ball joints and you rock it back and forth, and you can see that this bearing is completely gone. You can go in this area right here. I mean, it is just, this tire is supposed to have no movement at all. So basically what's happened is this hub's gone so bad that it's rocked over and it's knocked the end of the wheel speed sensor off. So we're going to take this tire off and we're going to start changing this hub. Okay, now that we got the tire off, there's these clips right here on the ABS sensor itself, the wires. So you got to take this clip off here, and we get new ones of these, so we just got to make sure we pinch these clips here and then pull these through. And this has a little tab on the back of it, and you just get a screwdriver in here and pull it out. Do up the same, and then right on the top underneath, right back up in here, is the connector. So the harness side just comes off and clips. You just reach your hand up in here and pry up, and the sensor comes off. There's a little connector up in here. There's a little bracket up in here that you're going to have to take off with your finger. I'll show you when I go to take them off with the screwdriver with a better light. But so now we're going to take this caliper off. We're going to take the caliper off, set it off to the side, take the rotor off, and then we have to take this dust shield off right here. So I'm going to show you all that stuff right here. And we're going to take this caliper off with the bracket. So there's just two 18mm bolts. There are these 18mm bolts right here. There's one on the top, one on the bottom. This thing will come off and it'll slide up out of our way. But we want to make sure that we get this. We want to get this connector off first here and up here, this wire, so it lays out of the way so we can set the caliper up on top. Okay, so there's a caliper bolt up here and a caliper bolt right here, and they're 18mm. So you're going to want to get yourself a long ratchet, and these are real tight. So right now there's a lip on the back side of the rotor, so we're going to have to collapse this caliper a little bit with the C-clamp to get it off. So we have the C-clamp on here, and we're just going to twist it and back it off a little bit. So this is a 2-piston caliper, so you want to make sure that you collapse both of them, and you don't want to catch the C-clamp on this brake line right here, or you have to replace the brake line. Now you can see this is supposed to have no play in it. And look at all that play there. Alright, so we got to get this cap off next. Now I take this little chisel. It's like a painter's scraper or something. You can use a screwdriver, but you got to take it on this lip and you got to pry this lip around, and you have to hit it in multiple areas. And you want to make sure that you don't distort this also. Now we have the big axle nut that we have to take off. I'm using a 36mm to get it off. Once we get it off, we want to push. We got to hit this axle shaft in, and we want to make sure that we don't hit the threads right there. So you want to hit it right on the end of this, on the very tip, because we don't want to distort the threads. But this hub has to come out, so we got to free up this axle shaft. See how it pushed in a little bit? And now it pushes in and out. So now we're ready to move on to get the 3 bolts around the back off. So this top one has to be done with a wrench because of the ball joint. So we'll get that up on there, and I like to hit it with a hammer. Okay, now we got the 3 bolts out, and now we got to hammer this hub off. Now we're just going to take a hammer and hit this hub because it's wasted anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now make sure when this hub comes out that you're pushing in, you're pushing the CV joint and the axle shaft in so it doesn't pop out and you don't rip the boots or have an issue with that. So now here's the hub assembly. I'm going to take the backing plate off of through there, and this is the bearing that's got all the play. Let's throw that off to the side. We're going to grab our new hub right here, and you can see that it's nice and tight. Now one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this sensor is clocked in the same position as the old one, and that comes up right through here up into this bracket. We also got to make sure that we put this backing plate on in the right spot too. So you just slide it through the cable and you line up these 2 bolt holes with this hole right here, slide it through. I know that this comes off the top in between these 2, so you line up this 1 bolt here, and you got to line up the axle splines here for the axle shaft. Basically it just slides right on nice and easy. Now we just reverse the procedure and put it back together. This is 177 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, they say don't impact these things on because you can over-torque them. So if you sit here with an impact gun and just wail away on them, yeah, it'll be too much. I don't even have a torque wrench that goes up to 175 or 177. So I just use this cordless impact and I'll get it, I'll make it tight, and then I just won't sit there and hammer away on it till it's over, you know, till where you're starting to stretch it. These are a lock nut also. They're a pinch nut, so it's going to be tied all the way down. That's tight. Now we got the rotor on. Now we're going to slip on the caliper and caliper bracket in 1 unit. Make sure not to twist this around one way or the other and get the brake line twisted. That'll cause some problems down the road. Caliper bracket bolts have a torque. I just get them good and tight. I don't know what the torque is exactly, but they just need to be snugged down pretty tight. But you don't want to use an impact gun, a 1/2-inch gun or anything like that to do your final torque on these, because then you can snap them off or break them and then you'll have more issues. Okay, now we're going to put the ABS wire back on. Make sure that's clipped in there nice and good. The wire's routed so it's not going to hit anything. There's the bracket up here that you got to get out to put the new ABS sensor in. So we're going to get that out. So we got the bracket out, and now you take the connector and you bring it around and you slide it down in the hole. And then take the connector and slide it in. There, it went down. Okay, so basically we've changed the hub, we've got the caliper back on, we got the ABS wires hooked up and everything, and you want to make sure that they're going to be out of the way and make sure they're going to be out of the way and they're not hitting stuff. So now we're going to put the tire on and torque down these lug nuts and be done. Okay, now that we have everything on, we just want to set on this dust boot and there we go. Okay, so I use this torque stick. It's a 120 foot-pound torque stick, and you want to make sure that you always torque down the lug nuts so you don't get any warped rotors or anything else going on. And then you want to go in a crossing pattern also. And you want to snug it up. And now we'll do the final torque. If you don't have this, you want to torque these to 120 foot-pounds. You want to get them as tight as you can up in the air. Then drop it down on the ground and tighten it up. Never tighten a wheel up on the ground. It won't seat against the rotor correctly. It won't tighten up right, and it'll come off on you later on down the road. So we just got back from our test drive. Everything looks good. No more ABS light and no more noise. And so this one wraps up for this episode of White Collar Garage. Thanks for watching.